All right. Think I'll go ahead and start so that in the future, if people watch this again, they won't have to wait for like 5 minutes for me to really get started. So, hey everybody, what's going on here? Blood Moon Bobby here. Here, it's funny. It's like not too long. Hold on, I'm sorry. I know that my audio is too loud. It's fun. It's so kind of strange to me. Like not too long after finishing reviewing book 2 of Infinity Train, I'm already caught up on the series at least until tomorrow when the new episode comes out, and I'm reviewing book 3, the third season of Infinity Train. It's time seems to really go fast because I still remember back when Infinity Train was still a pilot on Cartoon Network's YouTube channel, and here we are now in its third season. So yeah, so it's definitely really really interesting in just how fast time goes. Oh boy, this season is really interesting. I'll just start off by saying that. Before I start talking about the first 5 episodes, I would like to start off by saying that basically, regardless of how I review shows or movies with friends, or regardless of whatever the show or movie is, I do these reviews mainly to throw in my 2 cents. I try not to come from the perspective of where I don't like trying to make my opinion sound Bible. I've been around, I have like family and have known people who go around and try to make their opinion seem Bible, and when they throw around their criticisms, they try to make the other person feel bad if the person on the other end likes it, which I like. Ever since then, that's an attitude I really don't like to adopt. Basically what I'm trying to say is regardless of my opinion, this is just me throwing in my 2 cents and stating my honest opinion. If you disagree with me, that's honestly totally fine. If anything, and this is something that I've learned when I reviewed the Star Wars: The Forces of Evil finale, Cleaved, which um I said before I wasn't really a big fan of that finale. I remember there was a really interesting comment, and I really like reading the different interpretations. There was one particular interpretation I found on social media that I thought was a really interesting perspective. So it's completely fine if you disagree. Me and my friends, we watch very different shows. Like one of my friends, Steven, is big into anime. My friend Gabby is into horror, and I'm personally like the animation person who likes to watch the occasional drama every once in a while. So we're all here just to relax and talk about our thoughts and see and discuss where we could see Infinity Train go from here. So, with that being said, let's start off by talking about the first episode, which is the musical cars. So, as expected, this time the lead characters of the third season are Grace and Simon. You might remember the two characters of the Apex we saw back in season 2, back in an episode where they were kind of the antagonists, where they try to win over, especially Jesse, to their side, but Jesse ultimately doesn't really like them, and Grace turns MT or Lake over to the Chrome officers. They were very pretty antagonistic in that episode, and I'm not gonna lie. And what I'll do with this and the fifth, if I could talk today, the first and the fifth episode, what I'll do is I'll talk about how I felt watching it, but I'll also discuss other ways to interpret it, um things that I've talked to some friends and family about, other ways that they think that they could see where things are going, and also go from there. Because if I just go by my honest opinion, this would basically be. I would say episodes 2, 3, and 4 I like. The fourth one would probably be my favorite of the season so far. But if I were just to go from my personal opinion, it would turn into a rant. And honestly, preparing for this review has just exhausted me and others to a point where it's just, at this point, I don't want to make a rant. I don't have like the energy. Nor is that a good idea because I think it's best to try to be as objective as possible. So yeah, so in terms of what some things that I did like about this episode is we do get some more or details on how the characters, Grace and Simon, and the way they kind of interact with the Apex. And this also establishes the main story arc of the third season, where basically, and oh, by the way, major spoilers. I'm going to be going into as much detail. There's some episodes where, or I can't help but talk about the spoilers because it's really big stuff. Um, what was I about to say? Hey, Gabby, how are you? Yeah, so it is good to see that Gabby's in the chat. Um, and it does a good job establishing the story where basically this time Grace and Simon are separated from the Apex, the other kids, and now they're sent to a car that's 40 cars away from the shopping mall car that they are from. And by the way, Gabby, there are going to be I know I don't think you're caught up on season 2 yet, so if you don't mind spoilers, just be aware. So it does a good job establishing the story. Hello there. How do you pronounce your name? I'm sorry. I just suck with pronunciations. The name starts with a J. I don't know how to pronounce it. But you could let me know in the chat. But the thing that really makes me feel like really like divided on the season is this time in the lead characters of the season are honestly quite destructive and even despicable, because the thing about Grace and Simon is they're like very destructive characters. In fact, the episode actually starts with them. The reason why it's called the musical car is because they go with the Apex and literally just destroy this like music car, like this big stage. It's kind of like I can't really think of a good examples, but they destroyed this like music stage, and they're literally talking over fire, and so they're very destructive. There's even a scene where when they talk to the Apex kids, Grace in particular could get quite manipulative. She does the thing where she's like, "Oh, this is a really nice gift. Oh, this is so nice." But even though I don't think that's how she honestly feels about the things that she receives, we do get a glimpse into like Simon's personality, and that he wants to hold on to this like stage light he finds. But the thing that I find really difficult to grasp about the season is these characters are very destructive and despicable, almost as if, like, how I said earlier, I said in the second season they were more antagonistic? It's almost like, even though technically they're the leads, not much has changed. Now, as I say this, and this is where I'm going to get into the different perspective part, I talked about this with my sis, and yeah, I'll be honest, I was honestly really angry after watching the first episode that maybe actually, I come to think of it, I think Gabby was the one who brought this up, where maybe the reason why they start off as like really destructive characters is this is a setup for them to learn a lesson along the way as they go on this journey where they're trying to get back to their Apex car, or it's more of a shopping mall car, but you get my idea. Which, if that's the case, then I could understand. And also, if the concept of this season, if what the team was trying to pull this time is, what if this time the characters were very destructive and not very likable, and instead of characters trying to get the number down, this time the characters actually want the number to go up, and even try to encourage others to have their numbers go up as well, and have just these really manipulative and destructive characters. Honestly, the idea of like characters this time who don't want to get off the train and want to make their numbers bigger, I'm down for it. That's actually, that on itself, I think is a very interesting idea, to be really honest. I think for me, I just prefer, like, if you're gonna go the route of like really lead characters that are very difficult to like, I usually as a person who's seen tons of TV shows and movies where characters are it's not that I always want like characters to be like, sorry, I bumped my microphone. it's not that I always want characters to be like, happy and jolly like Star Butterfly. Like, no. I think that when like shady or manipulative characters are done well, what I the kinds of character of like shady, manipulative, or even destructive characters I like the most tend to be the ones where I either like I could, even though I would, even if I never would do the things they do in the show, I could kind of sympathize with where they're coming from. Like maybe the character had a troubled backstory, or even if they have like a very fascinating way of like thinking. Like you can understand, you could kind of get from the perspective why they would have like fun doing this, or something that they go about, or something they do is really intelligent and creative, and things like that. I mean, I'm not going to list specific examples because I'm sure people would say you can't compare Infinity Train to this movie or this TV show or things like that. I also of like jerky characters who I also like the ones that where they use some humor to make them more likable, like in Emperor's New Groove or Klaus, the Netflix movie. I think those two examples I could go with more so. Although, granted, Infinity Train, even though it does have its jokey moments, it's meant to be more of like a mystery thriller kind of show. It's not a comedy. So what I'm saying is I kind of wished, like, something I liked about the first two seasons of Infinity Train is, okay, Lake and Tulip are not necessarily the happiest characters, but I could understand why they feel frustrated. Like with Tulip, she's frustrated with her parents' divorce, and Lake was frustrated because she wants to form her own identity and she no longer wants to be associated with Tulip. Like, so I think if they maybe dropped a few more character details on Grace and Simon, then I could see myself maybe getting more invested with the journey. And I think the best way to approach the season, and hey, I'm honest, I'm open to this idea of maybe one of these days I'll go back and watch this first episode and maybe I'll start to like it more. Although really the things they do, like the destroying the stage and Grace in particular manipulating the kids, are like, those scenes are really hard to watch. I mean, the season doesn't get like bloody or gritty or anything. There's one like really shocking death scene that'll come later on, but these are very difficult characters to like just because they come off as like really like destructive. So I would have personally liked to have seen maybe drop a few more character details. There's something in the fourth episode where I kind of wish they talked a bit more about in the first episode so I could better see where the characters are coming from. But as a whole, I would say the best way to approach the season is to really look at it more from a story perspective, like just in terms of what keeps me going and what the reason why I keep going with these episodes is because I'm curious to see where it goes. Maybe, like Gabby, you're right. Maybe what they're trying to do is they're setting up these characters so that, they have to learn lessons along the way, and we'll learn more about them as we go along. It's just that I kind of preferred the way they did it in the first two seasons, because for me it was easier to get invested in the characters. So yeah, but if you found yourself getting into Grace and Simon, then I completely respect that. I would honestly find it. I mean, I would personally would like to have a much easier time getting through these episodes myself. So, okay, so that's the musical car episode. Now we get to the jungle car. Now here's the thing: episodes 2, 3, and 4, I could straight up say I like. Some more than others. I would again say the fourth episode would be my personal favorite of the bunch. But I like the setup in the second episode, and also episodes, and also in particular, I would say some of the episodes, especially episodes 2, 3, and 5, I think have some really good backgrounds. I really like the colorful backgrounds that we see in these episodes. So we get to the jungle car episode where Grace and Simon enter in this jungle. Again, we start to learn that while I would say between Grace and Simon, Grace is probably the more enthusiastic of the two. Simon could definitely be an enthusiastic character, but he shows like more or like insecurities compared to the two. So like we see that he's really, and I think what explains a lot of Simon's character is he's really scared to be away from his home car, being away from the Apex shopping mall car, I would say. And so at first the characters take it as, oh, Grace is like, oh, we could just relax here. But then the two characters are getting like chased by this beast. We don't really know who the beast is, and so I think they got to get away from the beast. And it turns out it's a gorilla character named Tuba who's carrying around a character named Hazel, this little girl, and Tuba's gorilla with these literally like carrying Tuba's like a backpack. And so excuse me, I didn't want to burp into the microphone. And so so Tuba well, I'll actually start with Hazel. So Simon and Grace are interested in taking Hazel along, maybe making her a member of the Apex. We start to see tension between and Simon and Tuba in particular. I'm looking for my notes to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. And we see like the establishment of their tension, which is gonna play a really big part, especially in the fifth episode. And what was I about to say? And Simon thinks so. Hazel actually has a number, but it's not the glowy kind of number that Grace, Simon, and Tulip have. It looks like it was like drawn with like a crayon or something like that. Like basically, it's drawn onto her hand, and Simon thinks that maybe 1-1 turned off her number or something. So I do like this episode in terms of it is progressing the plot. We do see that more manipulation. And that's the thing about this third season that I found really difficult to like. Is even in like more quieter scenes, Grace and Simon still do like really like kind of manipulative things. It's almost like when no, I mean I wouldn't say that because they don't spend the the entirety of the season destroying things, but it's almost like a thing where it's like when they're not destroying things, they're manipulating characters or trying to find ways to get around the challenges presented by the characters, at least in one episode. So I do like the second episode more so in terms of I like where it's going. I like the group that it establishes. I think Hazel and Tuba are very likable characters. And like I said, I really like the art style of this second episode. So before I go on to the next one, okay, so next one. And by the way, feel free to let me know your thoughts. Again, I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Is the name Jorseg? Did you see Book 3? What did you personally think of it? Um, Keep going to the debutante ball car. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Okay, and so again, early on manipulation where Grace tries to convinces Hazel that 1-1 is evil and that the red marks that the Apex character has, that red lipstick mark, is supposed to be a sign of honoring. Like she tricks Hazel into thinking, oh, there used to be another conductor that I think saved her at one point, and has it has a whole ton of numbers, but 1-1 is really the bad guy, and that's what she tries to trick Hazel into thinking. Which okay, sure. And so keep carrying on, and they go into. So at this point, really, the whole point of these characters solving the puzzles this time is for Grace and Simon to get back to their the shopping mall car. And so they go into the debutante ball car, come across a chandelier who is like, "Hey, you have to do this really crazy waltz. You have to dance in order to get out of here." And Simon goes off and tries to see if there's another way out. And so meanwhile, Grace and Hazel, for Hazel's sake, because she's interested in doing the dance, practices like is willing to go along with it, and we do get some insight into. I'll be honest, this part of the episode, I wasn't really sure if Grace was like making things up, but she sounded like she was talking about a prior experience where she said that she also had to do a dance class, but she got private lessons because her parents felt that it was for the best. And so when she had to do this recital, she didn't know anybody. So I'm wondering if that could be part of the experience. And so, of course, they do the waltz in order to, they begrudgingly do it in order to get out of there. And so, which they're able to do. So, again, does have some pretty nice character hints. I mean, just checking my notes again. I think there's a scene where Grace like says, "Oh, if the car doesn't let us out of here, then we're gonna start breaking shit." So it's just like, okay, and going on. And I know that that's part of their characters. I mean, I understand. Yes, this is part of their characters and what they do and how they solve problems, but I don't know. I just still found it really difficult to really get into these characters. And then we get to the Le Chalet car, which is probably my favorite episode because because I think finally they started dropping more substantial details. And my thought process is thinking, if the characters are going to be this really difficult to like, these really difficult to like characters who do really despicable things, I think it's best to establish relatively early on, at least a few character traits. And an example of when I think Infinity Train did a particularly good job of this is when I look back to the first season. Early on, we get, some details about Tulip's parents being divorced. There's even a scene where she goes into her room and like even starts tearing up and crying. I mean, they don't give the full answers right away. They don't get the, it's not like the later episode where Tulip confronts the truth of her past, which, by the way, is easily one of my favorite Infinity Train episodes. Probably is my favorite, I would say. But they at least drop enough details to explain why, like, Tulip is the way she is. And I kind of wish that this season did it in such a way. Maybe, and I was thinking maybe what they're doing is, maybe what they're trying to do is have characters who are really difficult to like understand and really difficult to like get into the mentality of why they do the things they do. But I don't know. I just preferred how they did it in the prior season. But anyway, the Lush Chalet car. So the characters go for the snowy car, but then it turns out that there is this blizzard that gets triggered, and they have to stay in this cabin where they discover the cat, the cat that we saw from the prior seasons. And we discover that Simon in particular has really big like beef with this cat. Like, he doesn't want the cat talking to Hazel and things like that. And he's just particularly like, he really wants to get out of this cabin, and he's particularly stressed with Grace. The nice thing about this episode is that for once we get to see Grace's more like insecure side, because she discovers that her number is going down and she doesn't know how to fix that. But anyway, when we discovered the actual reason why Simon really is really angry with the cat, it's because the cat supposedly, well, the cat says basically this is true, that the cat left Simon to die back when he was a 10-year-old. And honestly, that in itself, I think, could explain quite a bit. I mean, okay, we get from early on that Grace and Simon have like a ton of numbers on their arms, so that could imply they've been on the train for a while. But I could have used that detail in the first episode, like, because it would explain so much, like, and maybe implying something happened 10 years ago, and this is why Simon acts the way he does, being left behind. And that, I think that also explains why he doesn't trust Tuba, because he describes the cat as as his animal companion, the cat was his equivalent to Tuba and that sort of thing. So I think that honestly could explain quite a bit, and I'm really glad that this episode took time to do so. Although I'm sure we'll get even more details in later episodes. There is, I think, my biggest problem with this episode is the scene where Grace reveals her number is going down, and she was kind of hesitant to tell Simon, which is what happens when the characters are really destructive and despicable. Is I think she was scared to tell Simon, but Simon is like, of course, we're still, I still have your back and we're still companions. And I kind of thought that scene was done a little too quick. Like, it's still effective, don't get me wrong, but it's just, I felt that the resolution came kind of quick. We actually, from there, get to my favorite scene in the episode. I really like how they solve the puzzle of this episode, because I think it's a really creative way. Basically, what they discover is that the snow that traps Simon, Grace, Hazel, and Tuba is actually made up of water characters, like very similar to the ones we saw in seasons 1 and 2. So what they do is they gather some of these snow and put this character into I think it's a teapot, and the character gets steamed and goes into the clouds and tells the clouds, hey, there's been an armistice, as we could stop, can you please stop the blizzard? And I thought that was really creative. I thought that was probably one of the most creative puzzles of the 4th season. So I'm really glad. So I was really glad to see that. And of course we get to the scene where when they have to say goodbye. It's interesting because the way Simon and the cat say goodbye, they say goodbye to each other in a kind of sad way, which to me indicates that there's still unresolved problems. I mean, they don't they don't reconcile in this episode. I mean, who knows what's going to happen later on down the line, but it ends on in a way where both the characters respond to each other in a sad way. But I don't think it's the kind of sad where it's oh, I'm gonna miss you and that kind of stuff. I think it's in a way where it's there's still unresolved tension between the two. So I'm very curious to see if we'll get more of that in a later episode. Maybe they'll even show why the cat what exactly happened. Did the cat deliberately leave Simon to die? And to be clear, when I say I don't like Grace and Simon all that much because of how rash and destructive they can be, it's not that I want to see them get killed off or anything. I still, part of me is still hey, I want to see what happens with Simon and the cat. Do they reconcile, or is it a kind of a tense sort of relationship that isn't going to get resolved anytime soon? So yeah, fourth episode, just I'm really glad that episode was fantastic. I really liked it. And then we get to, I know some people were talking quite a bit about this 5th episode, the color clock car, where the characters have to find this key to get out. The only problem is that the colors keep changing, so it makes this course basically like an obstacle course they have to get around, really difficult to navigate. And again, that one I actually really liked the resolution as well. I thought it was definitely something I didn't see coming. In this episode, I do like how the scenes where Tuba and Simon can actually they actually can get along despite Grace and Simon's issues with characters that they consider what they call nulls, basically characters who don't have numbers, and especially those that they don't trust. So Yeah, so I thought that was really interesting, and we see that Hazel wanted to. Oh boy, that actually might say a lot about what's gonna happen in the next episode. Really gonna have to avoid spoilers. Hazel wanted Simon and Tuba to work together in order to get out, and so we actually see that the two characters can actually get along. There's one particular scene where Simon was able to save Tuba from falling off this ledge, but we'll get to that in a bit. So yeah, so I thought it was really, and the way they were able to solve the puzzle is that it turns out Tuba is colorblind. So in order to get out, they have to get this key when it's like the way this car works is that instead of like a typical clock where it's the time is told by numbers, the clock is dictated more by colors. So things like red clock, orange clock, yellow clock, and green, and things like that. So because Tuba is colorblind, and a a green object can still look red to her. So that's how she was able to get the gang out. But one starts moving trains again. I honestly wonder, this must be like a really crazy puzzle for 1-1. It's almost like this time, even though the characters are still solving puzzles, it's almost like 1-1. I'm wondering if it's a thing where he's trying to figure out some way in order for Grace and Simon to figure out the puzzles for them to get off the train or something like that. I mean, that's more of a fan theory for me. And so the characters get out the car. What happens next, I don't know if I'd say it was unexpected, but the way it was pulled off was like, this is easily one of the darkest scenes of Infinity Train, period. So because the cars are splitting up, Tuba throws over Hazel and, throws over to Grace and Simon's side. Simon supposedly goes back to save Tuba, but he gets his chance to take Tuba down. And the way it was put, it was just really, like, intense. Like, again, it doesn't get, like, bloody or gritty or anything like that, but, like, in this kind of situation, I was thinking, oh, is he just gonna, like step on Tuba's foot and Tuba was gonna fall? No. What happens is he electrocutes Tuba and like sends Tuba into like the wheels of the train car, like kind of like what Lake did to the Chrome officer in season 2. And it's just, I mean, again, they don't show the impact, but it's just like at that point, like I was thinking, even if, like, they get to, like, some kind of happy ending, I almost wonder if, like, Simon could be a redeemable character. Now, and I thought of this after it took me, this episode it took me a lot to process this episode. I mean, literally spent last couple days staying up until, like, 5 a.m. because that scene just burned in my mind, and it's just, so basically, what I started to think recently is maybe what's happening is I'm wondering if Tuba was killed off for sure, because I don't know, in a weird way, even though it's a very different situation, it almost kind of reminded me of like Atticus's like supposed death in the first season, where we were all worried, oh no, Atticus is dead, but of course Atticus came back. So it's like, maybe, they might pull some kind of thing where it turns out Tuba survived, or I don't know. Maybe, I mean, I haven't seen, they haven't released the episodes past the 5th episode yet, so who knows how it'll go. So, but I started to wonder, what if this could be a kind of thing where, and I think the reason why, like, Simon was brought to that point where he could literally attempted, like, I don't want to use that. I'd use like legal terminology because I think it would drive fans insane and things like that. But I started to think maybe the reason what pushed Simon to do something like that is maybe because of his past experience with the cat. Remember, I said earlier in the stream that he reveals that the cat was kind of his equivalent to Tuba. Well, so. And because Simon, as a kid, was left in such a really dangerous situation where he was left to die as a 10-year-old, maybe that it started to make him think to really like it caused this like really big like rift where he doesn't trust people that he considers gnolls. So maybe that's what pushed him to do the thing where he doesn't just like try to kill off two, but do it in such a vicious way. Geez, I mean, I say that when I say that, I mean like if something like that happened in like a crime like a crime drama, I would find that to be a really like shocking like death scene, let alone from a protagonist. So maybe that's what I'm just trying to look at it from a different perspective. I mean, I know I started it to get really impassioned, but maybe that was what was going on, and maybe that's what pushed Simon to do that and that kind of thing. So it makes me wonder. I started to think, where could the story go if Tuba is legitimately killed off, and where could it go if Tuba survives in some way? And I started thinking, if Tuba is like literally killed off, what if it could create a thing where Simon has to live with like this like guilt for like basically the rest of his days? And when I say that because the episode ends off on like a really legitimately thrilling cliffhanger where we discover that Hazel and Simon like just straight up real like you would think, oh, he's gonna like try to hide what he did to Tuba, but like no, he like just flat out says, yeah, I took out Tuba when I had the chance, and like has no like flicker of remorse on his face. And of course Hazel is like extremely sad, like basically her friend slash kind of like a guardian character could possibly be dead. So, she goes out, starts, and is like crying and sobbing, and it causes her to turn. We discover that she could turn into this turtle monster, and the episode ends there. Grace, wasn't really a fan of the idea of axing off Tuba, particularly at this point in the story. So, oh, my voice is getting kind of dry. So, what I'm curious to see is what if it's a kind of thing where if Tuba is legitimately killed off, what if it creates a thing where, especially because as Hazel like turned into this creature, is probably going to go after both Grace and Simon, what if it kind of creates this like sort of like, guilt sort of thing? I mean, with characters like this, maybe I'm just being like optimistic in that sort of thing, but who knows? And I was even thinking, and even if Tuba miraculously survives, although I wouldn't really put it past Infinity Train to like I keep a dead character dead, even if the character is is supposed to be one of the lead characters per se or secondary characters. I just picture Tuba is gonna really because like she already has like shaky feelings about Simon and not really trusting him parts of this episode, but because like it seemed like things were going good and he tried to axe her off, I don't think if she survives, she's not really gonna be. I don't think she's gonna be really trusting of Simon. So yeah, just checking some things. So I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to look at this more from a perspective because me personally, I am interested in seeing what happens if these characters like soften up and things. I even kind of was considering, and this is like the more fan theory stuff. I'm basically done talking about the 5 episodes, and now I'm going into like fan theories and speculation now. Maybe what's gonna happen is because of how Grace and Simon really don't trust a lot of the characters on the train. That in itself, what if it could cause a thing where it's like that could cause them to actually want to consider leaving the train and that kind of stuff. So there's something probably what I like about most of the season is there's a lot of possibility where it can go, and I'll give the creative team credit that because this time these characters are like much different, like much more like are much different characters from like MT and Tulip. Something like it leaves much more room for speculation because it can go into more places and that sort of thing, or could, I should say. Like, I'm wondering if that could be what if that starts the reason where they might consider leaving the train, whether they show them leaving the train or they do what they did in the first season where the villain character um where they just leave the villain character and it's like it's going to take her a really long time because she has numbers all over her body. I'll give credit that at least this episode is saying, hey, anything can go, anything goes at this point. At least until we see the episodes themselves. So, yeah. So those are my personal thoughts of episodes 1 to 5 season 2. It's a really difficult season to like from a character perspective. Like, I think they are trying to do. I personally think they are going in the direction where this time the characters are not nearly as likable as like Tulip and Lake, and this time they're more destructive. But that's part of the creativity of this season is that the protagonists are not exactly the most like moral. So, in terms of creativity, I got to give them credit for doing that. And maybe they are like saving a lot of like the personal details, and maybe we'll see more about why Grace and Simon act the way they do. They were already dropping some hints, particularly with Simon, but I'm curious to see even more. After I saw the first episode, one of the first theories I had was thinking, what if what's happening and the reason why that Grace and Simon don't want to get off this car is maybe they have like some trouble, because the reason why the characters end up on the Infinity Train is because they're a character going through a really rough spot, like in the character's life. So like with Tulip, it was her parents' divorce. With Jesse, it was accidentally getting his brother hurt trying to do like this stupid like slide down the hill. So I'm kind of curious. So it makes me wonder what a personal thing were Grace and Simon going to prior to being put on the train. And supposedly, at least for Simon, have been on the train for years, because it's pretty clear Simon is no longer a 10-year-old. He looks like he's either in his teens or as a young adult, which that in itself is actually kind of a creative angle. So, yeah. So yeah, it's like, this is why I like doing these live, because I like being able to come up with all these theories. So if there's one thing I do really like about the season is that it leaves a lot of room for considering the possibilities. So I do really like that, which honestly, Infinity Train has always been really good at that, like in terms of like being mysterious and twisty and turny. And something I liked about the first season is that it even leaves some like unresolved questions, but in a good abstract sort of way, like in a thought-provoking sort of manner. So in doing this review, it does make me realize, well, at least with characters this like different in personality, it does, leave like much more room for like speculating where they could be coming from. So yeah, it's funny. Before I did the stream, I thought I was going to be really ragey, because I'll be honest, when getting through these 5 episodes was really difficult to me. I mean, I know they're supposed to be, their characters are Grace and Simon, but they're really difficult characters to like. I mean, like I said, I think I would prefer, because like when I think back on a lot of like morally complex or jerky or destructive characters, I tend to prefer, or like in some of the movies I've seen, I tend to like it more when you could at least identify with what is the character struggling with, or if the character has like a really creative thought process, and it's like, hey, I'm very curious to see where everything goes. It's like maybe this character wouldn't be a moral example, but they're still interesting, but the character is still interesting enough where it's like I want to see where the character goes. So, yeah. And admittedly, I do sometimes, and this is a big part of why it takes me so long to get through shows, is I do have a habit of like taking shows and movies a little too seriously sometimes. But yeah, I still think that they still could have done things to at least make the characters more so people that I would want to want to tag along with. I mean, it's not that I'm necessarily saying that every good character needs to be like a really like a happy person or like really energetic and enthusiastic person like Luce from the Owl House or Star from Star Wars Force of Evil. I think the best kind of like really destructive or jerky characters. I know I talked about this before, but I really like the ones that I could either like sympathize with their like situation and see where the character is coming from or has a really creative mindset. And humor can sometimes work, like in uh with the main character in Klaus. I forgot his name. I think it's Jesper or something like that, or Cusco in the Emperor's New Groove. Like, yeah, the characters come off as like kind of snarky and spoiled. Cusco especially, but Cusco is Cusco's really like a funny character. It's fun to see what kind of antics he gets into. Or what I was about to say is I think this, so yeah, so I tend to like those kind of characters or just characters where I could really resonate with or see if they're like if the situation is like the character is living in like a really like dark part of town and it makes the character really like angry and even pushes the character over the edge at times. Like that like to me that's really fascinating. So yeah, so I think in terms I mean obviously I can't declare the season as good or bad yet because the episodes are still in the process of being put out there. But I don't know. I mean, I think there is a way to do these characters really well. It's just that the way the characters are pulled off, I don't know. I just feel really mixed about it. But again, if you like it yourself, well, more power to you. And generally with like whenever I do these reviews, I don't usually like to do a thing where like I say things like oh I recommend this or don't ever watch this or that. Really with like anything that I review, even like shows or movies that I don't like that much, I still think it's really a smart idea for people to check them out and form their own interpretations. If it's something that entertains you, you shouldn't be ashamed of that. I mean, I really don't like how nowadays that because like people on social media tend to come and make their like opinions like try to make them sound Bible and things like that. I think that scares away a lot of people who may have different perspectives. Not everybody who has a different opinion on an opinion or interpretation of a movie or TV show is necessarily a bad person or like a or not even a fringy person who tries to force the opinion down people's throats. Like, hey, if it's respectable or even like something that wasn't considered, I think that's wonderful. I like to me that was what got me into doing reviews of shows or studying films and things like that. Because for me, when I went to high school and studied AP literature, it was a big like the big discovery I made in that class was so stories aren't just about a three a aren't just so stories don't necessarily have to be three act structures. They can also be people could also study things like the characters or the themes or if it's a movie, people could get into things like focal lengths of the lenses or color palette. It's just like it was a mind blowing discovery to me. Like it's like, and ever since then, I was like, yeah, I like discussing my own opinions. For once, I feel free to discuss how I feel. It's intimidating, mind you, on social media because it makes me worried if I'm the only person who feels a certain way about shows and stuff like that. but still, I think people should, like, they certainly have the right to check out, like, whatever season of Infinity Train, or even how I feel about, like how I didn't really like the Star vs. the Forces of Evil finale, but I think people should still check it out. I don't think it's a good idea if, like, people who haven't seen the finale, if they just go by, oh, well, this influencer said this, or, play devil's that, or the other way around, where it's like, I mean, I don't think it's right if people were just like, oh, well, this influencer said it was good, or this influencer said it was bad, so that's gonna form my own opinion. I think if people have an interest in checking out the show that person reviewed, I think the person has every right to. I mean, I personally don't like doing the thing where, like, I remember early on in, like, my early days of YouTube, I would always, like, say things like, oh, I heard people say things about, like, I'm going to use Scorsese for an example. I heard people say these things about, like, Goodfellas or Taxi Driver, just basing it off my friends. And it's like, and I just got sick of that. I wanted to see these movies for myself. I didn't just want to be the messenger, which I'm really glad I did. I mean, to me, A Taxi Driver is easily one of my favorite movies now. So, yeah. So, I'll leave the stream going. I know I just went into, like, a really passionate talk about why I think people absolutely have the right. And again, don't take my opinion, like, absolutely don't take my opinion as Bible saying that I don't really like the third season of Infinity Train. It doesn't, by no means does it automatically mean that you're going to hate it. Like, if you maybe discover something about it or see it from more of a story perspective, it could be something that you might like if you haven't seen Book 3. Something I do recommend, though, is watching from the first season in order to get a, like, better idea of what goes on the Infinity Train. And also because I think the first two seasons were genuinely good. The first season had good mysteries, and the second one, I really liked how, I really liked seeing Lake's story. I mean, I spoiled because as Lake starts off as MT, but yeah, it was really great. I mean, I know people will bring up, well, there's really, like, the death scenes in the second season get really intense, like the scene where, MT swings the officer onto the wheel and just grinds the character to pieces, or the scene in the finale where the Dear Alan Dracula zaps the officer and just gets turned into slime. It's like, yeah, those were intense, but in those particular scenes, I think it was from a more understandable perspective because these, the Chrome officers were trying to capture Lake, and we're going around with all these, like, weapons. Like, I was concerned, were they gonna try to chop Lake up and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I'll keep the stream going in case anybody else has any more questions or thoughts on Book 3. I will say, I think talking about it more does make me more willing to see what happens next. I think the soonest I'll be able to watch the rest of Book 3 maybe tomorrow. Because I won't be able to stay up until midnight because I have work tomorrow. I work a full-time job. It's just that for me, I mean, not that I don't like doing fan theories. I mean, I've been doing fan theories basically at least since I was reviewing Star vs. the Forces of Evil. But I also wish that, like, I could like these episodes. I mean, I do like a few episodes of this season so far. The fourth one, I think, is one of the best because it mixed both character details with a really good puzzle. Like, to me, that's like the ideal Infinity Train in episode. Again, not that they have to do that every one because then and there wouldn't be much of a mystery if all the episodes were giving away really big, like, hints and that sort of thing. But But yeah, I really do like this fourth episode. It's just that I wish that I could like these episodes on top of coming up with these fan theories that I'm curious that are going to come true. So maybe I'll leave the stream going for at least another 10 more minutes. Again, don't be shy whether you really liked the third season so far, or if you're in my boat where you're not really like getting into it, or don't like it as much as the previous two seasons, because honestly that's kind of the boat that I'm in. So again, if you have personal thoughts on what's happening in book 3, let me know. Because I do really like hearing where my audience is coming from, and I'm really glad that especially these days, whenever I do state my opinion on like an episode I didn't really like, I am glad that most of my audience is generally really respectful. Like I was really scared that people were gonna be like really angry with me for this review or back when I reviewed Cleve. Like I'm pleasantly surprised, especially these days. And I'm not gonna do what I did back when I reviewed book 2, where I'm just like start eating my meal right in front of me or something ridiculous like that. So 9 more minutes. If you have any thoughts on the first 5 episodes of book 3 of Infinity Train, let me know in the chat. I really do enjoy discussing these episodes in the stream. I'm also curious to see how they're going to release the rest of the episodes, because the 5th episode said that new episodes of book 3 would be released on Thursday. So I'm wondering if they're going to do the thing where they'll release one episode at a time on Thursdays, or if it's going to be like last time where they released 5 episodes on HBO Max and they're going to release another 5. I mean, I think it's kind of like how streaming services go, where they release like all the episodes of a season at once, like what HBO Max did with Close Enough. I just generally don't like it when streaming services do that, because it just adds the pressure of catching up, and it makes it really difficult to avoid things like spoilers. Oh, and there's a helicopter coming. Hmm. This part is kind of geeky, but I noticed that this time I'm actually just doing the stream from my laptop. I'm not doing a two-computer setup this time because I have the live chat open. I figured that, oh, I'll just stream from my computer then. But I noticed that it's using roughly twice the amount of CPU power as usual. And the extra salt in the wound is this MacBook Pro. When the new macOS version comes out, Big Sur will not work on this MacBook Pro because this is a 2012 model. So, I mean, I've been considering a computer upgrade for a while now because I want to start getting into things like 4K video. And I'm hoping to do better quality streams because this laptop seems to only work best with like 720p streams. Although I don't know if I can find a computer. I mean, I'm sure they're on sale, just really expensive. I mean, I'm not looking to doing like 4K streaming anytime soon because of things like costs, but who knows, maybe the next computer I get could do like 1080p streams perhaps. So, a few more minutes. It's really hot today. Yeah, I'll be really honest. When I was assembling the thumbnail, I was honestly really mad, like just fuming, just really mad making that thumbnail. I don't know. In terms of other reviews, I'm currently like taking a break from doing Owl House reviews because I want to do a special one with like a guest, but I'm waiting to hear back on whether that can move forward. It is really difficult to avoid Owl House spoilers. I mean, it's also tricky avoiding Infinity Train spoilers. Like I remember back when season 2 was coming out, the scene where Lake axes off the officer I already like knew about before seeing the episode, which probably saved me from a heart attack when I saw the episode, but still. Jesus Christ. Yeah. And you know what's funny is I was so worried that I was going to act like how I did in my MacLeod review where I was screaming. I mean, this time I'm not doing it with guests. That's because I don't really know anybody that's or personally that has seen book 3, so I was going about it on my own this time. I lost my train of thought. I'm sure if I was a really good singer, I would probably just start singing Elton John's "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me." I really like his music. I like listening to Elton John in my car. Excuse me, I just didn't want to burp into the microphone. So Owl House, I'm not really doing reviews of right now. Infinity Train, I'm gonna keep going. Hopefully, I'll find it easier to get through. Seriously, though, these characters, again, not that they don't do anything like, like really bloody or gritty or anything, although really shocking stuff, I would say. But it's just that they're really difficult to like, and I don't know. I think it's, I don't know. I mean, I know it's supposed to be part of their characters, and not every character in a TV show is going to be like a super likable sort, like Star or Luce. And I'm not saying that's necessary at all. Well, like some of my like favorite movies and TV shows, one of them I mentioned earlier, have characters who are like really mortally complex and like put on the edge. So 1 more minute. If you have any thoughts on episodes 1 through 5, you can let me know in the live chat. If there's any comments, I can keep going. Yeah. Yeah, I don't really want to give too many details about other reviews I'm thinking of doing, because then, in case I can't keep promises. There is another show that I would like to do reviews of. I reviewed the first 2 episodes of another show a while back, but I'll save details for when I'll be able to do a review of that. I'll give 1 more minute in case anybody else comes by. But yeah, I guess the lesson learned in this review is save like heated thoughts. I mean, I know there's YouTubers out there who could literally make their own reviews of saying, fuck this game, or fuck this and that, and like I know there's YouTubers who make whole careers out of doing that. But after my initial experience of doing YouTube videos and just getting roasted in the comments and just being a complete dick, I'm just like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. So, all right, the sun is setting, and so I think that's my call to go. So anyway, thank you for if you checked out the stream, thank you for watching. I'm really glad that the turnout has been really respectful. I was really concerned, again, not that you can't disagree with me or anything like that, but I just didn't want things to get really heated, especially since I'm already exhausted just getting prepared for this review. So anyway, if you're checking this out after it's published, leave me your comments down below. And until next time, this has been Bloodmoon Bobby, and thank you all for watching.